Yo guys, this is Reinhardt, and this video is going to be our beloved dots, aids and shit like that. It's going to be about Necrotic Plague. A lot of people actually don't like Necrotic Plague because it is a DPS loss if left alone, but actually if it's done correctly, it can be more deadly than fucking Ebola. So let's talk about the damage numbers and talk to you about the optimization of our dot. Alright, so first of all, let's test our damage on the players of our actual dots without any trinket procs or anything else like that. So my trinket proc is about to expire, and let's put out the dots on the target. So roughly what we're gonna have is about 5700 damage, 5700 and like 14 damage, and the last numbers are talented, but that's really important. Okay, now obviously we have a new forced bonus that increases our shadow damage by 20%. And obviously it's actually going to affect only our blood plague, which is a shadow damage of our diseases. And it increases damage and bumps it up to, I believe, 6.7k damage total for the duration of it. So let's look at the damage. Yep, 6.7k damage. So that's actually pretty good for Warlords of Draenor standards. So now let's take a look at the Necrotic Plague damage numbers when it comes to, again, without the proc, trinkets and everything else. And I'm gonna give you a damage formula for it on the next slide after I'm done with actually looking at Necrotic Plague. Necrotic Plague does start very slowly, and it is vulnerable to dispels at the early stages. It does transfer diseases for you automatically, so you don't have to worry about blood balls unless you need to convert those runes. And the blood plague does seem to do less damage, but the one thing is it procs about 50% faster. It gets up to 4.7k damage at the last stacks without a proc trinket, and I would say it's overall a DPS loss. But as we go progression, as we build up stacks, and if we can help Necrotic Plague to build up more stacks, Necrotic Plague actually becomes more deadly. So let's take a look at the actual damage numbers. Yo guys, did you miss my mathematics? Because this is the freaking math. Get ready for it. It's coming at you worse than a wrecking ball by Miley Cyrus. So, we have a damage formula. The sum of ticks. How many ticks is your Necrotic Plague is gonna do? And the sum in parentheses, it's a 1x plus 2x plus 3x all the way to 15x. Where the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15 is a number of stacks that your Necrotic Plague has. And x is initial damage. So what you do is you multiply those stacks with initial tick damage, and you add them up together, and this is how you get Necrotic Plague and its damage. This is the scenario that we're running into. We have initial tick 338 damage, number stacks up to 15, number ticks 16 because you get initial tick. So you have 1 times 338, 2 338 plus 3, 338. But if we take a common denominator out, which is 338, we have 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 up to 15. That's a number of basically ticks we get with the stacks. And what we get is 338 times 135, 45, 60. That's how you can calculate the Necrotic Plague damage without interfering in its stacks. So, in comparison, we have regular dot damage is 62,810, and the Necrotic Plague does 45,630. But if average person looks, it's like, oh my god, that's almost like it's more than 33% DPS loss, more like 35%. And you're right, Necrotic Plague does require a good amount of maintenance, but if it's done correctly, Necrotic Plague will be actually #1 on your damage. So, by default, you see how Necrotic Plague does less, a lot less, than your actual regular dots. But the question is, what if we add a couple more stacks to it? Because the way Necrotic Plague works is the more stacks you have, the way more damage it actually will do. Way more. So let's say if I do just 2 Chain of Ice and 2 Plague Strikes. Let's see about that. So 2 Chain of Ice and 2 Plague Strikes. And we're gonna remove this before we get a tick. Now let's take a look at our Necrotic Plague dot damage when I just added a couple more stacks to it. So you see how it actually ramps up to 15 stacks much earlier. So from there, let's take a look. So we were at 47k damage, and those 4 extra stacks will actually make Necrotic Plague even stronger than our baseline dots. It'll get up to 70k damage. So that's the trick of Necrotic Plague. So by itself, the ability is actually not that very strong. But if you actually manage your dots correctly, if you manage it to the point where you care about building up stacks when they are at the lowest, you're gonna get the most out of your Necrotic Plague. The idea of Necrotic Plague is you need to add more stacks early. If we just add 2 stacks, just 2 stacks, we will get up like 2 extra Plague Strikes, or 1 extra Chain of Ice and 1 Plague Strike. We're actually gonna change the formula drastically, and we're actually gonna get up to 54,000 damage. So just those 2 minute stacks in the beginning will actually increase your dot damage by over 20%. That's the idea of Necrotic Plague. Take care of it when it's in the baby form. When it's just building up stacks, build them up. Then it will pay off greatly. Now we have the ability, it's called Unholy Blight, which basically builds up 1 stack every second. And it's huge for Necrotic Plague stacks. So let's take a look how much actually it will do damage if we Unholy Blight a target. And take off the Fallen Crusader. So you see how the stacks build up much faster. Much faster. At about 10 seconds you should be at about 14 to 15 stacks. You max out your stacks at about even less than halfway in. And then you get a full dot damage, which is 5080 damage, but every 2 seconds versus 5700 damage baseline dots every 3 seconds. So you get like 15k damage for 15k damage out for every 10k damage. And if we look at our dot pressure, we had a huge trinket proc, small one, but overall I took it off before it actually affected. I think it affected only 1k damage to us. So the Necrotic Plague by itself did about 65k damage with Unholy Blight, which is roughly about a 20% increase to compared to normal dots, or about 10 to 15% increase. But that's not all. That's not including pretty much anything else. That's not including our foresight bonuses, that's not including our festering strike refreshes and everything else. Now let's take a look at the true potential of Necrotic Plague. Let's take a look at the true potential of Necrotic Plague, and we're talking about just building stacks, increasing its duration via festering strike, and actually activating the foresight bonus. And let's take a look at actually how much damage we can actually squeeze out of Necrotic Plague. Ready guys? Let's do this. So trying to build up as many stacks as possible, activating foresight bonus, and let's enjoy actual dot pressure. Healer, heal yourself please. And we'll just show how much actual damage this Necrotic Plague gets up to. It's still lasting, it's still going, because the festering strike actually prolongs its duration by a good amount. And obviously it will fall off at a specific time, but like I said, keep in mind that Necrotic Plague does about 40% more damage at 15 stacks than regular dots do, and obviously it does less damage before you get to 15 stacks. At about approximately 11 to 12 stacks it's actually break even between 2 dots, and then Necrotic Plague takes over. Right, anyway, this is a marvelous uptime I have that I will never ever have in real life, I mean real world. But let's take a look at actually Necrotic Plague meters. Necrotic Plague was number 1 on damage. Number 1. It got up to 8.7 to 8.7k damage baseline. 8.7k. Almost matched the damage of 2 dots, but it's every 2 seconds compared to 1. I got up to 33 ticks, which in realistic scenario you're probably gonna get to 25 ticks. And needless to say, Necrotic Plague also gives you runic power back. It gives you 2 runic power whenever you get hit by an enemy. Now I checked that on dots, and for some reason dots are not reflecting on it, and most of the time it's just a melee strikes. So Necrotic Plague becomes a really strong choice against the melee opponents, and then I think Breath of Sindragosa could be next. And I'll make a spec about Breath of Sindragosa, by the way, on about Thursday. But so far, let's finish this nerd analyzing video, because I know you guys are about to probably fall asleep of too much heavy mathematics. I am actually just kidding. Most of my viewers' IQs is actually above average Dinkelberg, so they actually care about statistics and stuff like that. And that is why I like making videos like that. Anyway, so Necrotic Plague by itself is DPS loss. It is. But if we actually get build up about 2 to 4 stacks more early, meaning that if we do 2 Chain of Ice and 2 Plague Strikes, Necrotic Plague will actually match your baseline damage. Necrotic Plague does not work really well with our proc trinket because it ramp ups its stacks while the proc trinket goes. So it's better in the beginning of the fight actually pop Unholy Blight. So Unholy Blight is kind of a must for Necrotic Plague to have. I was experimenting with the Plague Barrier and Plague Lich, and while they do offer some minute differences when it comes to managing Necrotic Plague, Unholy Blight comes way on top of this. With that said, probably the best spec would be for Unholy Blight. Necrotic Plague would be Death Pact instead of Dust Siphon, Unholy Blight, Lichborn, Asphyxiate, Blood Tap, and Desecrate Ground and Necrotic Plague. That's probably would be the go-to spec for RBGs and go-to spec for some really heavy dot cleave teams. So Necrotic Plague is wonderful. It's because it also spreads by itself. So in the RBG team, when there's 10 people, you actually pop your Unholy Blight in the beginning, get to the 15 stacks, your Necrotic Plague will demolish things. It will really demolish it. But it requires maintenance. It's not the easiest of abilities to actually use. There's a lot of heavy mathematics tied to it. So when I actually first looked at it and I tried to come up with a damage formula, I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. This looks actually very interesting because the way that Necrotic Plague works. When you, in the beginning, try to build up as many stacks as you possibly can. And again, it also gives us tons and tons of runic power back, especially against the classes like rogues. For Frost Decays, I would imagine Frost Decays would actually pick Necrotic Plague over anything else. Just simply because they don't have to reply 2 diseases at the same time, they don't have to bother with the freaking Plague Strikes, and on top of it, they get runic power back, and runic Frost Strikes hit harder than Death Coils. So I would say Necrotic Plague probably would be a way to go for Frost. For Unholy, it's between Breath of Sindragosa and Necrotic Plague. Necrotic Plague offers a lot of sustained damage, Breath of Sindragosa spec offers a lot of burst. And that will be the video on Thursday. Thank you for watching, my friends. This has been a blast. Coming back to WoW, so this is gonna be feeling a little bit differently because I still need to get some raw stuff, but overall I like it. I like the actual Warlords of Draenor, but again, it's a mix and match. I'll make a vlog about what I like about Warlords of Draenor and what I don't like about Warlords of Draenor. But so far, thanks for watching, and до свидания.